good? Am I recording? You know what we haven't done for a while, Mr. Andy Gauns?
Tell me.
We haven't done our 3, 2, 1 countdown. I think today's the day. Are you ready?
You feel like today's the day for a 3, 2, 1 countdown?
We used to do that all the time on the Auto Amateur podcast, but, you know, Curb and Canyon hasn't been lucky enough to have that yet.
And those were good times, let's be honest.
Yeah, not one of them worked. Let's see if we can make it work this time.
Let's make it work. All right, you ready? Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Come on, you're funny.
Welcome to Curb and Canyon.
So, James, so pumped about our guest today. This dude's really become part of the fabric of the Porsche culture globally, I reckon, and he has expanded his horizons to other brands over the last few years, but I think there's still this incredibly strong connection to Porsche. He really broke the mold, combining photography, video, even fashion to create this Porsche lifestyle brand, and I think it's really unique. And I'd actually be amazed if there's a single listener to our podcast who doesn't follow him on social. But both you and I have bought his prints. All of my mates have his stickers on their cars. We've all got his T-shirts. He's an incredible photographer, amazing post-production with his photography. He's been a prolific content creator. He's kind of the OG in the Porsche content world, and he's pretty handy when you're on the other side of the world and desperate for Luft tickets as well. He's the one and only Drew Manley of Cooled Collective. Dude, how are you?
What's up, guys? Glad to be here. It's warming up here in SoCal, so, you know, just kind of getting used to the transition, but super happy to be here with you guys.
Where are you? You look like you're not at home.
So right now we are at, coincidentally I'm wearing this shirt, but I'm at WR Technica, which are our buddies over here that do a lot of race prep and suspension tuning and everything else that goes under the race category. And, you know, it's just, there's always a lot of magical things that happen here. So we have, my rally, I have a little one-day rally tomorrow, and Mike, who's gotten, you know, his 993 is always like next level, and he's next leveling the next level. So his car's been here for a good amount of time, and today is kind of the day that they're supposed to be finished up with everything so that he could be on the rally. So Richard, the manager over here, is like, what's going on over there? So I came into this room and I just kind of took it for myself. So here, let me show you guys around real quick. This is the office here, and got some cool stuff here. You got the Fanatec racing rig. Don't mind the massive Ducati here. And then, of course, This is my view right here. No big deal.
You see, that's my dream right there, Drew. I want a shop. It doesn't have to be very big. I want an office like that. That's my dream. That's my retirement plan right there. Maybe not with that car in. It'll be like a Fiat Uno or, I don't know, an old Beta, but that's the plan.
Hey, James, it looks like my garage though, right? So, Drew, for the three people in rural Australia, perhaps, who don't know who you are and who are you and what's Cooled Collective? Let's get into that.
Well, I think that I guess if I was to start back in the beginning, you know, I've been a photographer since the early 2000s, and I shot multiple different things across my career. But in 2009, I started a camera rental shop and spent it like pretty much all my time there, and, you know, like mentored a lot of young photographers. And somewhere around 2017, I took a leave of absence from my shop and told my shop manager, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna take some time off. So you're the captain of the shop. I'll see you later. And then, so that ended up being 4.5 years. And, you know, what I ended up doing was you know, I mean, I've always had a love for cars. I had a lot of car friends. But, you know, I wanted to kind of do stuff that's a little different from what I'm normally used to. So I went out and started shooting cars, just of, you know, friends' cars and stuff. And at the time in 2015, I got into Porsches because, you know, a lot of people know the story. But, you know, my wife was always, you know, telling me that I needed to get cars with back seats and stuff. So, you know, because I have a son.
Yeah.
So that's what, you know, spiraled everything. But eventually You start to kind of photograph. Anytime, you do anything, it always comes from a love of something that you have. And for me, because I was kind of getting into the air-cooled world, that's what I started photographing and recording and whatnot. And so, and I've been doing it for about 4.5 years now, and it's definitely feels like it's 4.5 years or longer now. It's definitely beaten me up. I would say that much. It's something that, anything that starts off is usually very innocent, and, you just put your love into it. And then of course it starts to snowball and the stakes get higher and you want to do more. And I'm the type of guy, like, I want to do everything at a high level. And so I have a hard time building a team because I feel like I'm babysitting too much. And I'm just like, you're not doing it well enough, so let me just do it. I'll do it faster. And, I got to kind of take a step back and allow people to learn and grow. Because, I would say recently I probably burnt out maybe 3 times in the last maybe year, 3.5.
Yeah.
And so it's just there's a point where, it's funny because if you're not used to creating content, you're like, oh, how hard is it? You just uploading 1 photo a day or, whatever. But, it's, as you guys know, it's not about uploading 1 photo a day. You have to upload a variety of unique photos that's never really been seen before, because if someone's seen it, then it's like a rerun. And if you have one unique photo a day, you can't have a photo shoot today and then post the same photo from that shoot tomorrow, because then it'll still kind of seem like a rerun. So if you're trying to post every day, which I did for a while, there's a lot of elements to it. So you got to have enough content where you can go back to something 3 years ago and still make it fresh, and something a month ago.
Yeah.
And, you guys know how it is. It's grueling because it never ends.
Well, for me, I go back and look at the first couple of videos that I put out, and maybe the first year, even 2 years worth of videos, and they are so basic, so amateur. And I feel like I've come a long way myself creatively since then, but even where I'm at now, I'm nowhere near where you were when you started. And that was one of the things I just loved when I first started checking out your content. It was like, is this a YouTube channel or is this an actual TV show? Is this just like professional quality content? It was really compelling. You and your friends all seemed like a really nice bunch of guys. And it was just very easy to get absorbed into it. And then there's Instagram, and then there's a website, and then there are stickers, and then there are t-shirts, and prints. It's just absolutely fantastic. What was there like a strategy at the beginning, or did it just sort of like morph from one thing to the next quite sort of opportunistically?
To be honest, there wasn't. When I started doing this, it wasn't like I was looking to monetize or do it for any specific reason other than I just wanted to purely just do it out of passion. Me having my shop allowed me to still pay myself a salary and still create content. Like if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have been able to create as much content as I did in the amount of time I did. But that was basically a luxury that I had. But also I knew that at some point I would have to make harder decisions, because it's not like I can't just not be around. But 4.5 years was a pretty extended amount of time. So I kind of had my blessings there. Luckily for me, I've had, early on, I would say about my first year or year and a half, I started to monetize a bit with my own merchandise and stuff, just to kind of keep things going. And I'm, we're lucky, we live in a time and we are a part of a community that's just, everyone's so passionate in every way, whether you're a fan or a creator or just, an owner. It's just, there's so many levels to being a part of the community. It's so small yet so big, it's just kind of like, it's a perfect storm, man. I mean, if you can find something that you are into, you can find a voice, and that's what's beautiful about it,
What's up with all the air-cooled cars? Because I'm here in Minnesota, and we got quite a big Porsche community, and we are lucky if we get 1 or 2 air-cooleds out with us at a weekend. Mm-hmm. It's usually the 996 plus crew cooling around and driving around in their water-cooled. You seem to have an endless supply of friends who are driving these incredible air-cooled cars.
That's an interesting question. I think that for me, like, I've said this across many different platforms in the past. Like I didn't grow up around Porsches. I didn't have anybody that I knew that had air-cooled cars. So for me, it was circumstantial. My wife was the one that really kind of pushed me. She was hoping that I would probably get like an SUV or something, but me being who I am, found like a loophole, and so for me, to be honest, I would say there are a lot of. I wouldn't say there was a single thing that kind of drove me into the air cooled thing. I would say there was like a lot of little pieces. One of my old shop interns, I remember when he sent me like Magnus Walker and Tamir's, Urban Outlaw documentary. I think that sparked a lot of new interest for a lot of people. But I think for me, there was elements of seeing the air cooled culture that was really cool. But at the same time, at the time, the only Porsche that I was ever really interested in was a 997.1 GT3. I remember when I was 12, when I fell in love with the car, which was the NSX, I had that same energy when I saw the 997.1 GT3. And at the time in 2015 or 2014, late 2014, I was looking for a GT3. It was slightly out of my range, but it was something that I really wanted. And a 964 was something that I had a lot of interest in. And I was going back and forth, and I was talking between two sellers, and the negotiation was going on like 3 weeks long, and eventually the 964 ended up closing, and that's how I got into the air cooled market. It wasn't really anything more special than circumstantially I found a guy who had one. He owns a shop on the East Coast, and he's got a lot of cool modified stuff over there. But even for me, 6 months later, I ended up buying a 997 GT3 just because it was something that I kept on thinking about. I was like, oh man, like I still have to have it, and ended up getting it in December, about 6 months, I bought it. So I bought my 964 in May, and then in December I bought my GT3, and it's just one of those things, man. Like you guys know, you can't really put. If you ask any 911 guy, it's really hard to say like what single maybe chassis. They might have a top favorite, but it's so hard to choose really one because they're all so different. You talk about multiple decades, and so you kind of fall in love with all of them, and so that's kind of where the bug kind of started for me. I realized like I loved the 964 for different reasons, and I love the GT3 for different reasons, and so on and so forth, and so I've owned enough of them. The 993 C2S also, which I didn't love as much, but you just kind of go through them, you figure out what you like and what you don't like, and you drive other people's cars and so on and so forth, and you just, like, as you guys know, bit by bit you start to kind of figure out what it is that you like, ultimately. So that's how I got into it. And of course out here, because the car culture is strong, you start meeting a friend who has, like, all my close friends we met circumstantially. My buddy Teddy I met, it was funny, I went to go visit Bisimoto. I wanted to talk to him about something, and he was in the same lobby room, and he had brought out his red 964, and I had brought my dumpy Toyota truck, and I asked him, I was like, hey, is that your 964? He goes, yeah. And I was like, dude, is it an 89? He was like, yeah. I was like, dude, I have the exact same one. I just got one, a year and a half ago, and we started talking, and, we kind of exchanged contacts, but it wasn't until maybe 6 months later, he kind of hit me up to do family shoots for him, and then later on, he was like, hey, don't you still have the 964? I was like, oh, I forgot you had one, and then we kind of became friends, and then, of course, you start meeting other people at other meets, and it just starts to, snowball from there. Yeah. So you guys know how it is. It's just, bit by bit, you put in time, and like week after week, you just start meeting people who have the same interests as you. In the beginning, I would say this much. Like, you come together for the cars, and then all the other little things that you vibe with kind of excel you to the next level, right? And for me, that's food. Totally. That's the reason why, like me and Mike hang out all the time, because we love food more than anything else. So the cars brought us together, but the food keeps us together. So
yeah, that's cool. It's true. It's interesting as well because you manage to you've got this great group there that you hang out with, and so many of these guys feature in your early videos, and then obviously their cars feature really prominently through your content, particularly in those early days. Was it just fluke and kismet that all of these guys happened to have just like some of the most kick-ass air-cooled cars anywhere, right? Like unreal cars.
I think it's one of those things. It's where, like, I would say it this way. Growing up, having an Asian mom, having a short Asian mom, like everywhere we went, my mom would notice other short women, right? And my mom would go, "Is that how short I am?" And my mom was like, "Look, she's short." I'm like, "Who cares?" Like, to me, it was really irrelevant, right? Because it didn't matter if they were short or not. But to my mom, being in a land that she's not normally, she grew up in, so when she sees another Korean woman who's the same height as her, like, it's like a Chihuahua noticing another Chihuahua, and so for me, it's one of those things. I think when you recognize other people who are kind of on the same wavelength as you, you just start gravitating towards each other. And I think a lot of us in our 964 group, a lot of us are the same age. We grew up around the same area, and we like the same type of music, and like all of those things kind of brought us together because we're all similar in that nature, and so and it just is what it is. It's not like an exclusive club where we just tell people, like, don't talk to us, you're not a part of the club. It's just we just came together, and it became a text message group, and everyone's so busy, so to get the 9 of us or 10 of us together, it's always a chore, and when we do come together, it's always very, very special. But for me, within the community, there's so many arenas of people who just track only or do shows, or like, me, I just like to, drive and eat. And so that's what I do. There's in California, like, if your thing is to drive slammed Pintos and, eat hamburgers, you will find a group of people who would like to do that. You will find a group, in California, you will find somebody who loves to do that. So for us, we're lucky in the sense that, anything you could dream of, like, it can happen. But at the same time, because the frequency of what goes on here is just so frequent that it's easy to kind of get lost in the saturation of things too. So like for me, I would say the last maybe year and a half, I've learned to pace myself, just because, I mean, if you're trying to go to, honestly, if you guys came any Saturday of the year and was like, dude, I'm in California, I want to go see a car show or a car meet, in one day you can probably go see 4 to 8 of them without an issue.
Wow.
It's Sunday, it's insane, and it's just endless. So it got to a point where, it's like, I mean, I always tell people, if my grandma made my favorite dish, but I had to eat it for an entire month, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it would take 3 meals for me to, but not even 3 meals, it would just, by the end of the day, I was like, dude,
All right, let's just hit the pause button for a second.
Yeah.
First off, if your grandma's listening, Drew's not saying anything about Kirk. Let's just put a plug in that one straight away. And Mrs. Manley, if you're listening, ma'am, Drew did not compare you to a Chihuahua. He mentioned Chihuahua, but I'm sure he loves you very much.
Sorry, Mom.
Throwing your mum and your grandmother under the bus. That's the last time they're going to be checking out your videos.
For Koreans, it's just a normal thing. It's just throwing people under the bus is normal speak. So. Absolutely.
Hey, Drew, I want to put something to you, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this because, and this is 964 specific. So, James, you can take 5 real quick. A lot of people sort of attribute let's call it the soaring popularity of the 964 to Singer, right? There's a lot of, Singer have really driven the popularity of 964. But I'd put to you that people like yourself and even Rob from the 964 page have actually probably done more for the popularity of the 964 than Singer, because Singer have driven values and a sense of scarcity around that chassis. But sure. But the person who wants a 964 doesn't want one because it could be a Singer, right? Because most enthusiasts are not building Singers. They want one because of either A, they've always loved them, or B, they have seen what they can become. And you've done this incredible job of kind of demonstrating the best of what a 964 can be through exposing your friends' cars, and Rob's done, I think, the same thing through his page. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the 964 is such an interesting story, right? It's like the ugly duckling story.
Yeah. And
you get a car that was so hated for such a long time. 996 is going the same story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things where, I think for a long time, Singer definitely gave the 964 kind of a voice. But I think, like you mentioned, for a lot of guys that are just normal car guys, are not looking to do, $500,000 builds, we just realized that driving them, and I found out basically myself, just driving them personally, because I didn't use any web stuff as reference points to go, oh, such and such said the 964 is great. Like for me, I was kind of aesthetically just drawn to them. And then, as some people know, like my car came from North Carolina. Like I never even test drove one before it got to me. So for me, when it arrived, it wasn't until I did an actual test drive after it came off the truck where I was like, oh God, like,
what did I just buy?
Could work. This could work, And at
what
the
have I
time,
done?
at the time it's funny because a buddy of mine was with me, and and all my Japanese cars I've ever owned were super like clean. And I remember at the time, like, when I bought the 964, it had documents for a paint job for 18 grand, like all this stuff. So I was expecting pretty much a new car. But I remember when the guy like peeled back the curtain for the truck, I remember looking up at it and immediately, hitting my buddy Wes on the shoulder and going, bro, is that like a paint chip? Like it was like a massive chip on the door, right? And I was like, oh, he can already tell I was getting agitated because I was like, I don't know, man. Like for me, paint's such a big deal. And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I was already getting bad vibes and stuff. And Wes was like, this is my first European car, first Porsche, first European car altogether. And my buddy Wes is like a big Euro guy. And he was like, dude, just give it a chance. Like you just don't know. And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to sell it tonight. I'm going to list it. I don't think it's for me. And that's when I did the test drive. And it reminded me so much of my NSX, but with the back seat. And that's the reason why I really fell in love with it. And so, the 964 for me, now being in them for like 7 years, like, and driving and owning so many different variants, it's just a car that really is a sweet spot. I use Goldilocks a lot, right? Like the 993 for me, it's too comfortable and soft. And then, G bodies look good, but, they're kind of underpowered. And, so for me, the 964 really hit kind of a sweet spot for me, right? And I always like to say for me, because, so many people ask me for opinions, and I realize that like my driving style doesn't mean that it matches your driving style, right? So I always tell people like, look, I don't have the right answers for you. Like you have to like go out and drive them. And of course, getting an opportunity to ask somebody to say, hey, give me your keys. Let me go drive this car around, see if it's for me, right? And nowadays it's just becoming harder and harder to do. I don't have a problem giving somebody a ride along, even if I just met them. And if I feel like they have enough experience, around driving cars, I might just say, hey, go take it around. Because I'm not at a point where like I worship cars, right? Even like as much as I love my NSX and all that stuff, I don't ever go, oh, like nobody could drive this car. Like for me, if I find the right person, I think it's the right moment, like, dude, I would love for you to drive it, right? And so, but in that sense, it's like if you go back to the 964 realm, I think guys like me who are just an everyday average car lover, when they see that somebody who's enjoying it for the purity of it, I think that makes somebody else go, shit, like, oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss, but he goes, it just kind of makes them say, it just kind of makes them think that maybe they can do it too. Versus a singer, like we already know, it's just you're not in that realm, So I feel like singer is something that people probably know the potential of it, but just don't ever associate with because it's a different class. And of course, when we started, when I started, 964s were in their 20s. And now,
Oh, just don't tell me that. Really?
James, don't worry. You can't fit in them anyway unless we put the front seat. We've spoken to Darren Pfister about this. If he can work out a way to put the front seat in the back, then you can have a 964.
You gonna shack it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, exactly. I'm like the white shack. So the 964, that you could pick one up for $20,000 and change US dollars.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just nuts.
In fact, actually, if you got started, see, I'm talking about late 2014, early 2015. Yeah. If you started like in 2010, you could get them like low teens.
Yeah, nothing.
So, I mean, that's...
What was I doing in 2015? I was wasting my life, basically, in New York City, not caring about cars. I could have had one of those.
Absolutely. You know, the guy who bought one...
Forget about it.
My buddy who bought one of my 964s, he was just finishing college and was kind of working and stuff. And I told him, I was like, dude, just buy this car, man. I think you'd be okay. And of course, he had to jump through hoops to get the money and stuff. And we always laugh about it now because I gave him, you know, my Recaro A8s. You know, those are old period correct seats and just a bunch of parts in it. And basically, he didn't even have to look for a 964. It fell into his lap with a bunch of nice parts. And I was like, you know, he bought it when he was about 25, I think. Yeah. And I was like, you know, I don't know anybody who's 25 driving around a car of that level like you. And it just handed it to you. And of course, now the car is probably, you know, double than what he paid
of
for.
Course.
And I was like, of course, you know, like.
Yeah, wow.
That's how things.
Do you think that's going to happen to the 996? You know, like because you can pick up a a beat up 996 now in the teens.
Yeah, it's already happening over here. I just feel like every 911 at some point is just going to spring up because when something just gets to a point where it's just not really attainable no more, then people just kind of trickle down and just it goes to the next one. Most people don't know, but I'm going to be building so after my Oak Green got crushed. I bought the RS America, and then I'm also going to be building a 74 and taking my Oak motor and trans and all that stuff and be stuffing it into the 74.
Ultimate hot rod.
That's going to be a hot rod and I've driven a Buddy 74 with a 3.6, and wow.
Yeah.
I just want to say they've never built a GT3 in the air-cooled realm, but this is like it feels like what it would feel like if that was a GT3. Yeah.
So is that a cool collective exclusive that's being dropped here on?
It is an actual exclusive for you guys. I've never really stated that publicly, so
there we go.
There you go. Right
it's on.
There we go, James. Hey, big time for us. We get an exclusive. How about that, huh? Our 3 listeners are going to be stoked.
Dude, absolutely. That's where it starts, you know? That's the seed right there.
Yeah, that's it. And Mum, if you're listening,
I've always wanted to ask
we'll
you,
talk
Drew.
about it later.
What's that, James?
Well, one thing I wanted to ask was you started out as 911 Cooled and you're now the Cool Collective.
Yeah.
And I think as there was the transition, my second child arrived and I spent 6 months in a hole basically. So I think I missed that whole transition. What happened there? Can you talk through?
I can't really get into the details of what happened, but let's just say that things happened a little forcefully.
Okay.
And
things out of your control.
Things out of my control, and you know, at that time when it happened, you know, it kind of happened at the best time it probably could have happened, and it still allowed me to run a different freedom. Like it didn't have to just be 911 centric, which is still most of my content. But you know, like I have lots of friends that build all sorts of cool cars, and you know, just being able to kind of identify and photograph different cars and different lifestyles has been a blessing. But, you know, most of my heart, I stick around the 911 realm just because it's still like a majority of where my base was founded on. So like if I go out and post like a GTR or something, it might get like 20% of the likes just because people are not used to seeing that on my page. And so, you know, I'm at the point where I still shoot things just based on, you know, what my energy tells me, you know, like I don't have anybody dictating what I do, which is a good and bad thing because then I'm also, you know, an inherent procrastinator. So I kind of do things as I need to, or, you know, just push it off to the very end. So, you know, that just means you're a creative. But I see that you have all the organizational boxes in the back. So
my wife,
you know,
or my wife.
Oh, well,
if I organize this space, it would just be junk.
Well, you know, I realized at some point that, you know, in my 30s, I'm 42 now, but I remember that in my 30s, I realized that you can go full left, meaning you can go full creative, meaning that, you know, your organizational skills are probably just out the window, but you're just, you know, you leave things everywhere, but you know exactly where everything is, but your creative energy is just flowing, and on a drop of a hat, you can just, you know, you can just whip something up, and it's amazing. And, you can always swing either way, just depending on how much energy you put into it. So, the more, I always tell my wife or my buddy, I was like, the more I organize my creative space, the less creative I'm going to be. Just because things are not, when things are organized, it's just everything's nice and neat. But as a creative person, when, you're in a room full of objects and you're just like, oh my God, I see that paintbrush that's being crushed by that wooden horse. That reminds me.
There's an idea in that. That's
an idea, you know what I'm saying? Like, the creative energy is sparked by all sorts of things that's, just kind of out and open in the wild, And so that's kind of how I live my life now. I live like full creative, and because I should be in a full office and creative space, our entire house turned into fulfillment center / sweatshop / editing equipment room. Like, it's just my wife's so awesome. I mean, I know one day she's gonna want the house back, but like, you can't really walk around the house freely no more. It's just boxes and boxes of things just everywhere, and just it is what it is. So,
and your wife's on Instagram as well, isn't she? Isn't she like at Drew's wife?
My wife is called wifey, but I have to say my wife is like, she's always been my rock. And even last night I was trying to I was installing my stereo, getting ready for the rally, and it was me, my wife, my son, and our dog. It was like 11 p.m. and I noticed that after I put the radio in, I was hearing a buzzing sound. And I put it on my stories, and my buddy Ryan from Wirewire, renowned like wire guy, electronics guy, he was like, "Dude, it's your climate control system." And sure enough, he was right. And I remember when I took it out of my oak, it would pull out, and you can take out the back, thing. And for me on this one, I couldn't get it out more than halfway, and I realized like, this RS America, I don't know if it was for weight saving reasons or Porsche just not having any money at the time. They're just like, everything needs to be shortened, and you have to stick your arm in behind the dash, and there's not a lot of room, and it was a pain, and I could not get the top one off, and my wife had to go under the thing, and this is 11 at night, she's already sleepy, and my wife's such a champ. She went in there and she dug it out.
Legend.
And I was like, man, I was trying to think about how many of my buddies' wives would even sit in the car with them like that. And
or even how many of my buddies.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. To me, it's like a blessing that I can do what I do. My wife's always been supportive of all my creative endeavors, and it's just I just go where the wind blows. And
yeah. Hey, Drew, I got to say, James, let's just talk real quick about this whole creativity and mess thing. I think that's me basically vindicated regarding how messy my garage is. So any future comments from you, James, about the messiness of my garage, I'm going to refer back to this conversation. And let's just call that vindication.
Well, it's good. It's good that you guys are one of each, right?
Yin and yang.
You have the full creative side, and then you have the structured side. Me and my buddy Randy started this podcast about food. And I'm the crazy creative one, and he's basically James.
Yeah,
big dude also, right? My buddy Randy's a big guy, but he likes he lines up his paper clips, and I'm just like, bro, serial killers probably do stuff like that, right? Like, I don't know, it's a little odd.
You could just see off camera right now.
I'm seeing the thumbnail for this episode. Is James a serial killer? Find out this week on Curvin Canyon.
Hey, life's crazy that way. So
it sounds like I've got a potentially best friend and soulmate in California.
If you come here, I will introduce you to your partner, serial killer.
Good lad. I'll be there.
Hey, Drew, I wanted to talk to you just quick about print, because over the past few years, it's obviously something you've really actually started to push, and you've invested in gear and equipment and all that sort of stuff. And James and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago that, I'm a big fan of books. I've got, all the stuff, all of Bart's books and the Luft books and all that stuff. And then we've both bought prints of yours, amongst others. Why do you think print is still an important medium, particularly compared with stuff like Instagram and the other digital ways that we consume this kind of content?
I think, you always hear a term that print is dead, and I think mass production print is dead, but I think print is still well and alive, right? I think that, is still a great way to express your interest in something in a quick manner. I mean, if you walk in someone's garage and you see art and memorabilia, it's like you instantly know what somebody's into. When I went to Jay Leno's warehouse, his studio space, I mean, it's just, I don't know what you would call it, but I would say what's even cooler than the cars is just the amount of art that he has.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that what's really cool is he's got these massive murals, right? And he was telling us that like he would remember certain magazine advertisements when he was young.
Yep.
And what he would do is he would hire a painter to go up and to replicate, this 8-foot, 12-foot mural that would look like an old magazine cutout. And to me, it's like if I was thinking about like if you were walking around Jay Leno's place without any art, it's just cars in a warehouse, it would look like a dealership.
Yeah.
But it's special because of all the art and all the old memorabilia, the old gas station signs, all that stuff like adds to the space like 100%. And I think once you start thinking about you see a lot of vintage stuff, right? Like stuff from a long time ago and why it's special because we're growing up with it. And I feel like today, we live in an Insta culture where people get, they're over an image in 0.13 seconds, and you're just like, bing, 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 bing. And we're consuming so much in such a, in short amount of time. And I remember when I was in college, when I was in art school, we would look at an image, for 3 hours. And we'd just sit there and critique it, And so for me, when I start thinking about where we are today in the world versus having something that is a little bit more analog in that sense, it kind of brings us back to a place that I feel like makes us human again, right? It makes us realize like, this one was special enough for me to put on my wall because had significance for me, many different reasons, or it reminded me of travels or, whatever you're into. And I think that, we live in a time that like people love to express the stuff they're into, right? Like whether, you like fancy forks, there could be a whole, club with fancy forks, right? And whatever it is, it's just a great way for you to spruce up space that really tells that story. Like if someone comes into your space, like if you have you guys eventually get into a beautiful space together, one of you guys move to each other's wherever wherever concedes and moves, right?
James, I'm not dealing with the snow.
So whichever happens, but at the end of the day, like it's just a quick way to also spark conversation, and just art in general. It's like forever changing, and it's like kind of you're pushing the limits, and it's just a great way for that world to exist and for people to express. And I don't know. It just to me it is. I think there's always going to be a place for it. Otherwise, we're just going to live in a really drab world. So I think that prints, books. Anything that has value outside of the computer will just become more and more valuable just because, once again, it's just a big contrast to maybe books at a certain point maybe never had a strong contrast, right? I mean, computers today would be exactly that. And now I feel like my wife loves books. We have so many books in the house because of my wife, but she's not a computer girl, right? She doesn't like technology. So she's on the stark end of the book side and I'm on the other end of that. So,
I feel like you have to, with a book, for example, you have to make a conscious decision that I'm going to take myself over to the sofa, sit down and immerse myself in this for just a second. And actually, that's a very different experience from scrolling through, because I think about on Insta, for example, you're one of the best, but I'll scroll through, I'll see one of your shots, go bang, hit like, and then move on, right? Versus I've got your Highline print. And that sits in my office, and that is an image I look at a lot, because when you actually take the time to look at something versus the scroll, you get immersed in it and you notice detail you didn't notice before, and you kind of give the art the moment and the respect and the attention that it deserves, that the artist has put into it. And I just love that. And whether it's in books or whether it's in prints, that opportunity to spend more time with an image versus just scrolling past, acknowledging it with a little tap on the love heart button it's not enough.
Yeah, and it happens to the best of us, because you get into a moment where, let's say, you're about to hop into bed, but you just need a moment to kind of decompress. So you just jump on your phone and, we're all conditioned, right? No matter how strong you are, you're still conditioned to still, sometimes you might just like something because you see a screen name. It doesn't even matter what the picture is.
Yeah.
You're just like, that's my buddy. Yeah. You just like it. And you're like, why'd you like my corn dog photo? And you're just like, I don't know. I didn't even know you put a corn dog photo, but it's your buddy, right? And sometimes, I don't know, the mind does what the mind does. And I just feel like it's one of those things, like for me, like when I print out one of my images, like a 24 by 36, even me, sometimes I'm just like, oh man, like I didn't even notice that detail right there, right? Usually when I'm editing, if I'm editing something that's like very intensive with Photoshop, I mean, I know every bit of it because I'm cutting stuff out. But some images that I kind of just clean up, tone a bit, and just put out, sometimes those are the images where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't notice what's this guy doing on the sidewalk, or, at this moment, something is like technically just different or whatever the case is. It's stuff like that, for sure is interesting. And I think that when you see something in a larger form, and for me, like I love to cook and I love to watch, like if I bake something, which I don't do often, but I will watch the whole 25-minute process of a cookie baking, right? My buddy was like, my buddy was cooking something and he goes, dude, it's just gonna boil. There's nothing more than that. I was like, shh. I was like, shh. I'm doing something right now. And he's like, just wait. I was like, bro, just go away. I'm watching water boil. It's my thing, I like to watch the process, right? So for me, when a print comes out, I would say the first 2 months, every print that was coming out, I was watching the line by line. Because you're just like, oh my God, like it's coming, when you have something that's virtual and it comes into the real world, it's like giving birth, right? You're just like, oh my God, it's here. And I feel very, with every print that goes out, I sign, and it feels very personal to me. So, it's like being a part of that process and somebody knowing that, like, you put, your approval on something. Yeah. Like, there's something very special about that,
Yeah. Well, and so with my, I've got 5-year prints now on one wall in the garage, and I like looking at them, but that kind of feeling when you first open up the roll and you see the hologram and you get to touch it and you try not to get your fingerprints on it, that whole experience is great. But what you just said about the process, one of the things I really like about the content you put out is whether you see the print first or you see the making of the print, you kind of get to see the whole thing come together. Like there are prints of yours that I don't see for months. But when I finally see them, I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I saw a photo and I saw a video and I saw, guys lining up in the street getting ready to take that shot at like midnight or whatever in downtown LA or wherever you shoot. And that's all part of the experience for me, knowing that it wasn't just some random snap on the side of the road as you were driving 60 past something and thought, hey, I'm going to take a photo of that.
Right.
There's intention, there's thought behind it.
Absolutely.
That blows me away.
James, you hit a really good point because I think for me, like all through art school, like I had a really amazing photography professor, but, he was always adamant about us talking in a certain way. He goes, go out and make an image, don't just go and take an image, go on and like concept it and then manifest it, And so like always like big time, like I've always allow that process to be very heavy in my, in the way I work things out. And so, with everything I do it with intention. Very rarely will I just shoot something just kind of on the fly, unless, my favorite type of photography is like documentary, candid photography. But I feel like that's the hardest type of photography because you have to be super patient. Like you have to be watching people knowing, hey, I noticed this one guy walks around cars a certain way. I want to see if I can capture that in a way when he comes back around, maybe I could be ready for him and or him or her, and then try to capture that essence, and that's tough because I'm the type of person, I don't really have much patience. I'm like, look, there's a shot, the composition is great, the lighting is great, snap, but it might technically be a great image, but it might not have a lot of emotions to it. So to me, like if I had like my way, I would love to just kind of focus on that type of photography where it's just, man, how do I capture, man, this guy I've been watching for 30 minutes. He's so interesting. But there are also times where now it's like, if I go to an event and let's say a lot of different people come from different parts of the world, then also there's like that part where I also have to, still show face and, meet people because I love doing it. I love doing that too, just as somebody who's a car enthusiast and meeting other people. But at the same time, there's a song and dance with me with trying to say, hey, look, I need to work because if I just talk all day, then I'm not going to have anything to show, right? And sometimes I do get flustered now since I haven't made YouTube videos in a while just because, I've hit burnouts in different stages. Like, the video, like I was never comfortable making videos. It took me a long time. I never really... Like, I'm not really good at directing or like storyboarding. I'm not really good at any of that stuff. I just kind of said, maybe I'll do some slow-mo stuff here and there and maybe just vlog in front of the camera. But I'm not really comfortable in front of the camera either. Like, I prefer just to document and write. That's why I started the blog, which also is labor intensive. And like everything is, as you guys know, everything takes time, a lot of time. But we also live in a culture where everybody wants high quality content twice a day. It's like, in what world does that work? Like, it just, I don't know. It's just, I know it's so demanding, and I've just been better at telling myself like, bro, it's 12 o'clock, go to sleep, start again tomorrow. Because there was a point where I was sleeping 3 or 4 hours a day, bless you. And so to me, like, just to be better with, my health and say, hey, look, there's always going to be, even if you're caught up, you're never going to be caught up, And so just pace is what the biggest thing is. And it's just something I still struggle with because there's still so much to do. And I want to do everything. I love every part of it. I love photographing. I love editing. I actually like making videos and editing them if it was my sole job. Like if it was somebody just paid me to say, just cut video. I was like, dude, perfect. Just pay me my fee and then that's all I will do.
Yeah.
But then also have to come up with designs and also have to, help on the development of the fulfillment side, which my wife helps me with. But, like we have to make sure like every part of everything that we do, like, it meets a certain standard and how do we make it better? And it's just, it's grueling. Yeah. You guys know bits and pieces of it. And you guys, I mean, James, you make YouTube videos. How often are you putting out content?
Last year, I think I averaged one a week.
Okay. One a week is a lot.
It's huge. It won't be the same this year. But I go in fits and starts. There'll be months where I don't put a video out, and then I'll put like 4 out in a week, which are all related to one another.
Right.
I just happen to have gone to 4 events that kind of inspired me to do it.
And life always clusters that way.
Yeah. Quality is something I want to keep focusing on. I find that I sort of get excited with an idea and I run with it and bring it back together, and it's maybe not exactly what I wanted, but I'll make it work anyway. Yeah. And then 6 months down the line, I'd be like, probably could have done that better. But to me, it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? It's like, is it the journey or the destination for you? And for me, it's the journey. Like right now, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm going to really enjoy editing this pod. And then I'll really enjoy listening to it when it comes out. But it's not just about listening to it. This whole process is just, is part of what gets me out of bed. And it's the same with making videos. It's the same with wrenching on my car until 1 a.m. and, having cuts all over my arms from all of the things I've done wrong. And you gotta enjoy the moment. And that's something that I really try and teach myself. Because I've always been looking 2 steps ahead.
Yeah. And I think, that's, to me, that's what's really, like, I mean, I remember when I first got into the Porsche game, like I had, I was meeting people and people would come over and we would wrench together. Like recently I put up that photo when we were doing a suspension of the RS America on the street. It's so funny. My buddies were like, dude, can't believe, you're doing the RS America on the street. I was like, look, first of all, everyone, like ever since I got it, everyone's like, so like, RS America. I was like, look, to me, it's just a regular 964. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'll treat it like any other 964. And so people are like, oh, like, people almost talking like I need to pedestal the car. Like it needs to be done at the highest level shops and stuff. And bro, I was like, look, the suspension that goes inside an RS America is the same way that you put in a regular 964.
Yeah,
it's not any different. Like people pedestal things. I was like 10 years ago, nobody gave a shit. It was like it was RS America or not. And it was just like it was 964. Nobody gives a crap, about any of them.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like the fact that I had friends come over late night after work. And we're trying to, get stuff done in the middle of the street and not to piss off my neighbors too much. And, all those things like those are the memories that I always remember, even on my C2S when my buddy lent me his shop and his lift and, three of my buddies came over and we always laugh about corn nuts now because I ran over, it was around 11. I ran to the supermarket and just started grabbing random snacks. And I remember a bunch of us got into corn nuts. And just the crunch, it is so loud. And now my buddy was like, when we were working on the streets, he goes, dude, did you get corn nuts? And I just started laughing because I'm like, that night we worked till 6 a.m. We started at 10.
Wow.
And we finished at 8 because we were doing a bunch of work on my car. And I remember the sun was just coming up. And two of them had to leave around 2. And then the rest of us, my buddy Jason, forked out till 6 a.m. with me. And of course, then Jason came through again to help me on my suspension. And, Jason he loves to wrench. And I love, soon I'll have a space that we can do that versus just doing it on the open street. But to me, also, there's something special about doing it on the street too, because it's just so grassroots. You know what I'm saying? It just brings me back to a time where, it's not like having a fancy garage and stuff is nice. But for me, there's still something special about, using the jacks. I'm right on the gutter of my street and I have to bring out my Milwaukee lights. And it's just, there's an element to that just reminds us man, we came together not because we had quote unquote fancy things or this or that. It was just for the love of cars and the love of camaraderie and coming together and saying, hey man, let's just spend time together, whether you guys are helping me put suspension. And the older you get, it's just harder to do, right? Because people got families and, they got significant others, they got jobs, side jobs. So anytime I can spend time with friends my age, late nights, on the weekends, I never take those things for granted because to me, I know how precious time is. And so that if you, if James, for example, if you lived in SoCal and you came over to help me, if I went come over to help you, to me, that's the language of love for men. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro, the fact that you came over and nowadays, most people don't want to do anything physical anyways, right? So to have two of your friends come over, hang out, Mike brought us food, once again, Mike, we're always associated with food, but Mike brought over this King Taco, and Mike doesn't wrench, but Mike was like, well, I'll be there to support you guys through your stomach, and, if you guys need me to hold something. So it's to me, but then Mike hung out, we were all standing on the quick jack because we couldn't figure out how to get it down, and it took 5 of us plus my wife, and, it's just memories like that I know when I get older, I would just laugh at stuff like that because it's man, we were in our 40s jumping around we were in our 20s, or we're in high school, And to me, the older we get, it's so easy for people to go, oh, I'm too old for that, or blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, so what do you do when you get old then? What do you do? You just sit on the couch and watch TV?
Waste away.
To me, it's the fact that you're coming together to build something or, just to do more than just hang out. There's so much love in that. And I feel it would be so cool if I just had a paint night, because right now we're getting into a warehouse space, but, I just call friends over and it's dude, I'm just going to paint. If you guys want to come over, I'm going to have extra canvases for you guys. If you guys want to paint, I don't care if you've never painted before. Let's just all get together, drink beers, and just have some fun. That's what. Yeah. To me, that's what it's about. And I always tell my buddies like my buddy Quan, who comes out from Sacramento. He's he's 26 years old, and I was like, everything that I do today is to. This is what I say to my buddy Alan, who I've met. Sorry about that. Who I've met through them following my channel, is that I like to say I'm fishing for other friends, like I would say, or my brothers that I feel I just haven't met yet.
Yeah.
That's why I keep making content because, other than that, I'm a type of person who gets bored easily. For me to do what I've been doing for 4.5 years, that's a long time for me. And so for me, if I can find another person like such and such, another brotherhood, of guys that I just haven't met yet, you know, that lives within 30 miles of me. To me, those are what that really that push me. That go, hey man, like push this content out. You're gonna reach somebody who is gonna reach out, and you know, it's always the guys. This is what I love. You know, you always get a thing from somebody, you know, who's got like 278 followers. You know, he's got a low key guy. You know, his account's blocked. And at some point, you know, he's like, oh, I've been following you forever. But, you know, for some reason, they felt like they had to reach out to you, whether it's like because of a fish taco you put up or like, you know, a rim or something. He's like, I felt like I had to send you a DM. And you're like, bro, you've lived this close to me all this time. You've never reached out to me. You know, those are moments I was like, well, what do I have to do something new to pull in somebody who's just like, oh, man, I've been following this guy and I really want to hit him up. But, you know, to try to draw those guys out.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, as you guys know, there's a lot of sleeper fans of the cars, the brands, of the community that just are too shy, or they're just like, you know, that person's too big. They won't ever say hi to me or whatever. I'm just like, yo, I'm not looking to hang out with more famous people. I'm looking to hang out with the guy who's just like me, who's just like, bro, let's just go for a drive. Let's go eat real quick. That's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for the guys like you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys, there's a reason why I'm even here with you guys today, because for a fact that I know that you guys, true, are enthusiasts making content for enthusiasts, right? Yeah. You're not here going, damn, James, damn, Andy, I already see the dollar signs falling. I mean, there's a million things you guys can do to make money here that's way easier than any of this crap, right? Like, this really comes from, like, you saying, like, man, we've known each other forever. Like, why don't we just add a way to contribute to the culture? Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then if some great things come after that, great. That's amazing. But that wasn't the focus, right? And so to me, everything that happens, like, at some point, the more time you give it, the more you have to become sustainable. So you have to get more creative with how, you know, you produce income to stay sustainable and all that stuff, right? But, you know, those are the things that's going to come naturally as you guys start building. But the core foundation of why you started is that, like, dude, we just love this. There's nothing more than that. Like, we want to meet other people like us, and yeah.
You know what? I'm not sure if it was the corn nuts or the fish tacos, but you had me at both of those. I'm all about snacks with my wrenching.
Bro, I didn't even realize you were 6'7", dude. You're a monster. Like, I can see your little bag of corn, like little bag of corn nuts, and you're like, there's nothing in here. Like,
James, when he gets hangry, terrible.
Oh, I could see that. Like, tell me, what do you eat on a normal Tuesday for like lunch? Like, what is it that you consume? Because you're like, not just a tall, I mean, you're not like a fat guy, you're a big dude, right? So, like, the thing is, like, what do you consume? You just think you look like consume something at a high, oh my gosh. Like, Mike just
Small children.
School children.
What's that? Little children?
Small children.
Small children.
And stray dogs.
Well, I believe it, you know. I'm hungry!
Exactly.
I totally believe it.
Well, it looks like you got snacks there. What'd you get?
So when you're in SoCal and you're Asian, apparently this is all we drink out here. It's like levels of tea.
Is it bubble tea?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you guys call it bubble tea. We call it boba, but, you know, just they call these tornadoes, which is like
it looks cool.
Cheese. It's like some sort of cheese and strawberry mixed together. This one actually tastes pretty good.
Wait, it's cheese?
It's like they call it cheese foam. Yeah, wow. it's when you come here.
Super healthy, obviously.
Obviously, like at least probably 70 grams of sugar. You know, nothing bad. You know.
Dig.
Amazing.
Well, Drew, it's been awesome having you on the pod. I think as you get out your drink, we can start to wrap up. But mate, keep doing everything you're doing. I mean, you're a thought leader in this space. You know, you continue to just light a fire for all of us. And I'm sat here with 2 of your prints in the shopping cart because I think I need 2 more.
I want to thank you guys. You know, at least on that perspective of things. You know, I would have to say, in the end of December, I sold my shop, And basically, I'm solely doing this as my job or career right now. And it's a little frightening because I have to say, in January, I decided to kind of pull back a little bit because I felt like I've been burning out. And as I've been pulling back, I felt like my sales have been declining because I'm not active. Like, I have to be active for sales to be good. But it's just one of those things, like every time, a sale comes through, like those are all very like personal things for me because it's not just money flowing in and it's just, just play money, right? It's like, it's actually my livelihood.
It's for real.
And, it is for real. It's weird. Like you live in a virtual world that eventually becomes a real world. And there's no roadmap for this. I can't look at somebody who's been doing this for 15 years and going, oh, show me the social media way, right? And even if he did or she did, guess what? This year is probably going to be irrelevant, right? Yeah. And so, like, it's ever changing. So and to me, it's one of those things where, I mean, if I was to tell myself, like, you would be photographing cars independently on your own and staying alive and being, independent and self-sustaining, I'd have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Because, to make money in the automotive realm is not easy. It's really, really tough. Like, you could be in any other industry, food, fashion, like, anything, jewelry, and you can make so much money so much easier. And cars are like, it is so difficult.
Yeah.
But, but also the people are so passionate about it. So, in that respect, for me, it's like like every part of what I do is personal because I remember there was a point where like a buddy of mine, I bought something from him. It was very like a print of his. And I remember it was like drop shipped. It came from another source. And I remember how cold that felt. And I was like, oh man, like that sucks. I thought it was from a buddy. And so ever since then, like, we made it more of a thing to make sure that it comes from somebody, either me or my wife, to actually sign something that's a part of it because it is personal because it's what we do. Yeah. That's what we do day in, day out, And so to me, like, I never take any of this for granted. I know at any point it could just come to an end. But for me, the relationships, honestly, that I've met in the recent years has just been fantastic. I just want to say one more thing before you guys leave, just food for thought. When we're young, you have friends that you make friends with people circumstantially, right? Like the guy lives down your street, you're in the same classroom. Like you're friends because you always are around each other. And when you get into your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, what happens is you start meeting people like randomly at Cars and Coffees or whatever the case is, and you spark up this relationship with somebody much sooner and much faster because it's not circumstantial no more. You're hanging out with somebody because you actually like them, right? And you find out you have more and more interest with them. So for me, as we continue this journey of life, like don't ever stop like looking for ways to stay young. And all those little things lead you to the next adventure. And for me, things are no longer circumstantial. So just be intentful, be intentional. And as you guys do those things, you guys will find a life and, everything that you guys do will become more enjoyable just because of that reason, which is you're in it because you're just looking for beautiful relationships. And ultimately,
amazing. Drew, I love it. Just sage, inspiring words. What a great way to finish up, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You've wide-ranging conversation, everything from corn nuts to cheese, strawberry drinks, and friendship, and everything in between, man. We really appreciate you taking the time, and all the best as you crank on with whatever is the next chapter with Cool Collective and you and the family.
Absolutely, and thank you guys, and I'm so glad that you guys are contributing to the culture and society of everything. It's actually interesting that you guys are so far apart making content. I'm sure scheduling is a nightmare for you guys.
Pure hell.
But man, so to me, there's just another level of the excitement that I have for you guys. And, whenever I drive, I try to listen to podcasts. So, I think I'm on episode 2 of what you guys have created so far. But, for me, it's like, just trying to catch up with my daily life. And then whenever I don't drive very much because I literally work from home. So anytime I get into the car, I'll throw something on. But, I'm so glad, you guys I've known you guys way before you guys had started this, and you guys have great chemistry. And like I said, through and through, like, you guys are car guys, and you guys are owners. So like all of those elements, I feel like, come together to allow the perfect storm. And I'm glad it's you guys.
Thanks,
Good on you, man.
I really
Thank
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
So,
Awesome.
Drew, what a guy, huh?
What a guy. And now I'm hungry for like Korean food and corn nuts and chihuahuas.
I just want to reverse my car out into the street and jack it up on the street and start working on it down there. And but so generous with his time. And do you know what? I love this idea of his that, part of this thing of creating content, and seemingly almost a hallmark of everything that he's doing is about bringing people together. Totally. And do you know what? You think about those early videos, like, I can't think of a video he's made where it's not him and his mates, right? Like,
exactly.
That's always been what it's about for him, and it comes through. And whilst at times he sounds like it's kicked his ass, he also just sounds as passionate as ever.
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, it's in the name for one, the collective. He's very inclusive. And, I've been like, really, he's like one of the channels I've followed religiously, in my 5 years on YouTube. And you can see there are times when he's down a little bit, and he's been putting pretty much all of his effort and energy into this 24/7, like he said, for 4.5 years. And, I guess you have to take the rough with the smooth, but he's just done so well. And he's just such a nice guy.
Well, yeah, and do you know what? I think even the fact that he is transparent about that, he'll get on Instagram stories and say, you know what, guys, I'm doing it tough this week. It's a late night. I'm still doing this. And I think, with him, it's always about a window into what's happening. And so, the highs and lows, you sort of ride that roller coaster with him a little bit too. And again, I think that's just part of his, as you say, inclusive approach to all of this. Great stuff. Yeah, stoked to have him on today.
Well, dude, I hope the next time we talk, I'm going to be coming to you live from a 996. Fingers crossed.
I hope and pray. You know what? Next time, why don't you be in your very, very neat garage, and I'll be in my very messy garage, and hopefully behind you is a blue 996.
We'll see. We'll see.
Indeed. You have a good week, my friend.
You too. And everybody listening, thank you so much for your continued support. Check us out on Instagram at Curb and Canyon. Check out Andy at Last Rasp. And check out myself, James, at Auto Amateur. See you next time. Bye.
See you, gang.